Well, today I'll discuss some of the doctrines that elaborate the law as given in Article 13. I have given you some tasks to complete, uh, which I'm hearing that you people have not done that, except few. So when I'll start with those doctrines which are the part of Article 13, basically to interpret the term void and to the extent of in contradiction with or inconsistent with the pre-constitutional law, post-constitutional law. So in my first lecture, I have given you the provision as to what is Article 13, what was the constitutional history, as to how this has become the part of part third of the Constitution, which is related to the fundamental rights. And today I'll proceed further for elaborating some of the case laws which are there in part third of the Constitution, that is Article 13 of the Constitution. So for that, I'll be discussing with you some of the doctrines in order to know as to how to interpret the provisions which are there in Article 13 of the Constitution. So, as told earlier, also Article 13, Clause 1, that is existing laws which are inconsistent with the Constitution. And this clause provides that all the laws in force at the commencement of the Constitution, that is 26th January 1950, that if in clash with the exercise of the fundamental rights conferred by Part 3rd of the Constitution, shall to the extent of that inconsistency will be void. This is what Article 13 Clause 1 provides for. It speaks about the pre-constitutional laws. Now, to understand this, there are some points which you must remind that the entire part third of the Constitution, including Article 13(1), is prospective, not retrospective in nature. So you may be understanding the difference between prospective and retrospective. That means the date when it has to come into force. That is the particular date. If a law is enacted and notified, that it would be applicable from the date of, and that date is to be of a future, or it may be of the same day, but it cannot be a previous date. So you see that this Article 13 particularly, we see it is prospective in nature and not retrospective in nature, meaning thereby anything which has been done earlier to the enforcement of the Constitution or prior to the enforcement of the Constitution, that would not have any effect. So this entire part third, fundamental rights as a whole, you see it's prospective and not retrospective in nature. So the existing laws which you see are inconsistent with the fundamental rights are not void ab initio. That is, it is not retrospective. When the fundamental rights came into existence, that is 26 January 1950, that is the Constitution of India, then after that it would be considered to be void, but not from the previous date, from the earlier date. That means a law which was enacted in 1946, and that was good at that time, but after 1950, when this constitution was enforced and that 1946 law became inconsistent with the fundamental rights, then the period during 1946 to 1950 would remain valid, because it is not void ab initio. From the very beginning it would not be void, and that's why this is the distinction between prospective and retrospective. So if we say it is void ab initio, it means that we are giving a retrospective effect to that law. So this is not to be considered that this is a retrospective law, but it should be considered as a prospective law. And existing laws which are inconsistent with the provisions of part third are rendered void only with effect from the commencement of the constitution. That is the date I am talking about. And which we see that for the first time placed and the fundamental rights in the constitution only and only prospective. That is, every citizen is having these fundamental rights as a fundamental right only after the commencement of the constitution and not prior to the commencement of the constitution. So it would have only prospective effect, not the retrospective effect. So we can say that the inconsistency in Article 13, Clause 1 does not affect the past transaction. Whatever has been done previous to the enforcement of the Constitution, that is not the part of Article 13, 1. That is not going to affect Article 13, Clause 1. That is before the commencement of the Constitution, or the enforcement of the rights and liabilities that had accrued under the inconsistent laws before the commencement of the constitution. But it does mean that unconstitutional provision or unconstitutional procedures that is laid down by a pre-constitution act, that is to be followed in the proceedings which are pending or which are new proceedings. So this was a query. As I am talking about that the law which were there in existence prior to the constitution would have no effect after the position or commencement of the constitution. This is one thing. The second point is that regarding procedure of a previous act. So if there is any proceeding which is pending before the court of law, if there is any new proceeding which has to be filed before the court of law on the basis of the previous law means before the commencement of the constitution. So in that case, what would be the law? Whether it would be prospective or it would be retrospective. So in case of the unconstitutional procedures, that is the procedures which are violative, which are inconsistent of part third, then this rule of prospectivity will not be applicable. Okay, so you see that it is not meaning, it is, there is no meaning that the unconstitutional procedure should continue for the pre-constitution act. And we see that the pending proceedings or the new proceedings, if the procedure is wrong, if the procedure is inconsistent, then it would not be it would not be prospective, but retrospectivity has also to be seen. So as also we know that as there is no vested right in the procedure, there is no vested liability also in the procedure and the matters which are there before the court of law. And in the absence of any special provision or any contrary provision, the law which will exist or the law which will be enforced is that wrong precision, whether the previous law or the law after the commencement of the constitution, that should not be violative of part third of the constitution. Okay, the only thing which you have to understand here is that article 13 clause 1 speaks of pre-constitutional law. Pre-constitutional law which is violative or inconsistent with part third shall, to the extent of inconsistency, be declared void. It does not mean that the law is void ab initio, that the law was void from the very beginning. But if it is a matter related to the procedural law and that procedure is inconsistent with the part third of the constitution, then that unconstitutional procedure will not continue after the commencement of the constitution. So we see that if the proceedings had been completed or become final before the commencement of the constitution, nothing in the fundamental rights of the constitution can operate retrospectively so as to affect that proceeding which has already been completed or finalized. And for the same reason, it is also not possible to question the validity of that part of the proceedings which had already been there and maybe inconsistent under the law prior to the commencement of the constitution. You see, there was one case decided by the Supreme Court in 1951, that is Keshav Madhav Menon versus State of Maharashtra. I have given you this name of the case to go through that case. I don't know how many of you have gone through that case, but this was a case in which the petitioner, he has published a pamphlet and according to the pre-constitutional laws in 1949. But as you know that the Indian constitution came in effect from 1950, and it conferred a fundamental freedom, that is freedom of speech and expression under article 19(1)(a) of the Indian constitution to every citizen, and that publishing the pamphlet is also one of the part of article 19(1)(a), that is freedom of speech and expression. And therefore the Supreme Court said in this case that the trial must go on, and as the benefit of article 13 would not be given to him because article 13 is not retrospective in nature. So it was the case in Keshav Madhav Menon, and here Justice Das, he was the acting Chief Justice at that time of the court, and he was of the opinion that all laws, existing or future laws, which are inconsistent with the provisions of Part 3rd of the Constitution are by the express provision of Article 13, as I have just made it out that Article 13(1) speaks about the pre-constitutional law. So Article 13 rendered it void to the extent of such inconsistency, and such laws were not dead for all the purposes. The law which was there prior to the commencement of the constitution, and if after the commencement of the constitution that is inconsistent with the provisions of part 3rd of the constitution, then the law which was enacted prior to the constitution commencement, that is not dead for all the purpose. That is not have it means that that is not a law which was not in existence at that time and even after the commencement of the constitution, because they existed for the purpose of the pre-constitutional rights and liabilities, and they remained operative even after the constitution. But for whom? For non-citizens, because you know that article 19 is available to whom? Article 19 is available to citizens only. Okay, so any law which was made prior to the enforcement of the constitution, that law, if it becomes inconsistent after the commencement of the constitution, then that law would not be declared totally unconstitutional or totally void, because article 19 is available only to the citizens. The law may be inconsistent for the purpose of the citizens, but what about those non-citizens who are not having this article 19 benefit under the Constitution of India? So Das Justice, he was the acting Chief Justice in this Keshav Madhav Menon case. You see that he said that this is the law which is not dead for all the purpose, and they existed for the purpose of the pre-constitutional rights and liabilities that are there operative after the constitution, even after the constitution, as against whom? Against the non-citizens of the country. And it is only as against the citizens that they remain dormant or in moribund condition. Dormant condition or moribund condition, that is something like the eclipse. You see that when there is an eclipse, then it's not the total darkness for all the area to come, but it is the darkness in only that area where this eclipse is effective. So similar is the case with these laws which are said to be the pre-constitutional laws, that is not totally dead, that is not totally out of the declared as void, but that would be existing for whom? Existing for those who are not entitled for this fundamental right under article 19 of the constitution. And article 19 is available only to the citizens, while the law which was there may be made applicable to the citizens, to the non-citizens, to legal persons, and to the companies, to corporates. So various things are there who can enjoy that law or the benefits of those law. So it would be considered to be only in a dormant situation or in a moribund condition. And this dormant situation or moribund condition is also known as the eclipse. So this doctrine of eclipse has been, we can say, devised by the Supreme Court in order to interpret Article 13, Clause 1 particularly for the purpose of pre-constitutional law. So the effect of Article 13(1) is that this is not to erase out or to delete or to consider to be a dead law, which is inconsistent, and that is not completely out from the statute book. A law which was enacted in 1946, for example, and it is inconsistent with the article part third of the constitution, then it would not be void completely, it would not be erased out completely from the law books, but it would continue to be operative for those whose fundamental rights are not being violated, as I have given you the example of non-citizens, companies, corporates, legal persons, etc. So it would not be erased out for all the times, for all the purpose, or for all the people. And the effect of that is that inconsistent law cannot stand in the way of the exercise of fundamental rights after the commencement of the constitution. For whom? As I told you, for the persons who are entitled to fundamental rights under the constitution. Okay. However, who are not entitled for the fundamental rights, aliens, legal persons, etc., then it would be applicable for them. As you know, that right to property, though it's not a fundamental right now, and after 44th amendment it has been repealed, and now it's a constitutional right under article 300A of the constitution. So when it was there in 191F as a fundamental right to property, then it was available only to the citizens. Right to equality under article 14, again it's available to the person, but it is not available to an alien, it's not available to a foreigner. Okay, so if any law which is there and if it is inconsistent with part third of the constitution, then it would not be considered to be a dead law for all the persons, but it would be considered to be inconsistent, unconstitutional only for those who are entitled for fundamental right, and it will remain good for others even after the commencement of the constitution for those persons. So this is how this doctrine of eclipse has been evolved by the Supreme Court. It simply means that if at any later point of time the inconsistent provisions is amended so as to remove this inconsistency with the fundamental rights, then this amended provisions cannot be challenged on that ground that the provisions had become dead at the commencement of the constitution, and it cannot be revived by the amendment. So all the acts done under the law since the amendment will be valid. For the reason that the constitution is amended subsequently to remove the inconsistency, and that the law which has been challenged that becomes inconsistent from the date on when the amendment of the constitution take place. So it is known as the doctrine of eclipse. That is, for example, if I say that article 19(1)(g), as you may be reminding now, the case of Bhikaji Narayan versus the state of Madhya Pradesh, that was of 1955, and very categorically the Supreme Court has devised this doctrine of eclipse, which simply means that if some laws are violating fundamental rights, so they would not be declared void ab initio, but would be unenforceable for a time being. That is, such laws are overshadowed or in a moribund condition or in a dormant condition. Thus, in case of non-citizens, the law may be applicable, and similar was the case in Bhikaji Narayan, because you see that an existing state law that authorized in this case the state government to exclude all private motor transport operators from the field of the transport business. So this was their fundamental freedom under article 19(1)(g). Everybody knows, and some part of this law became void because of this article 19(1)(g) after the commencement of the constitution, because the provision could not be justified under article 19 clause 6. 19 clause 6 imposes the reasonable restrictions. So the law which was pre-constitutional law, which has conferred this right on every person after coming into force the Constitution of India 1901G, which conferred this freedom of profession, trade, and business. This was covered by Article 19(6) as a reasonable restriction. Okay, but the very first amendment to the Constitution in 1951, that also amended Clause 6 of Article 19. And this Article 19, Clause 6, which was amended by the first constitutional amendment, it has permitted the government to monopolize any business. And you see, the Supreme Court, what held in this case is that after the amendment of this Article 19, Clause 6 by 19, in 1951, particularly 18th June 1951, when it became into force, the constitutional impediment or the constitutional restriction that was removed. And the act which was challenged as unconstitutional is not unconstitutional, and it became operative and enforceable from the date of the amendment to the Constitution. So during that period, 1950 to 18th June 1951, that right was only, or that law was only in a moribund situation, that was in a dormant situation, that was not a dead law, that was not considered to be void ab initio, but that law was in existence. And when the situation changed by amending the fundamental rights, that law could be revived, and this revival of the law, that is known as the doctrine of eclipse. Then in Jagannath versus Authorized Officer Land Reforms 1971, Supreme Court, again it was a case related to the question of revival of a void act by the constitutional amendment. And the court here in this case held that Article 31B. If you go through the constitution, you will find that Article 31 was amended many a time, and this 31B and the ninth schedule have cured the defect, if any. This was the decision of the court in the various acts mentioned in this third schedule, and as regards any unconstitutionality alleged on any of the grounds of infringement of the fundamental rights or by express words of Article 31B, such curing of the defect to place the retrospective operation from the dates on which the acts were put in the statute book. So this was the decision that this has been cured by Article 31B and ninth schedule of the Constitution. And here you see that a void statute could be revived by constitutional amendment. Though in this case, the court has also discussed the doctrine of absolute nullity. Absolute nullity means that a law which was in existence prior to the commencement of the Constitution and after the commencement of the Constitution, if that law is in conflict with, is inconsistent with Part 3rd of the Constitution, then whether the previous law would be absolutely void or not, the court said that no, it would not be absolutely void, but it could be revived after amendment to the Constitution. And you see that the first amendment in the Constitution, which has also inserted ninth schedule to the Constitution, amended 31B, that has cured what is cured? The unconstitutionality has become constitutionality, and that's why this was the judgment of the Supreme Court in Jagannath case. And then you see in IR Kohilo case, that was also related to the ninth schedule case of 2007. And here the views of 9 judges bench of the Supreme Court, this was a unanimous judgment of the Supreme Court, that the inclusion of the laws in the ninth schedule is subject to judicial review. And that judicial review is the touchstone that is given as a basic structure doctrine in Keshwanand Bharti case. And the court held that while laws may be added to the ninth schedule, but Article 13(2), that has to be seen that whether it is violative of any of the fundamental rights or not, it is infringing the very essence of the fundamental rights or not. or it is violative of the basic structure of the constitution or not. So this new theory has been evolved in this IR Kohilo case, the essence of any of the fundamental rights infringement, which was there in basic structure of the Keshwaran Bharati case, and also relating to the judicial review, which is the very purpose of Article 13 of the Constitution. Now, regarding applicability of the doctrine of eclipse on post-constitutional laws. Now, as I told you that Article 13, Clause 1 is related only and only to the pre-constitutional laws. And Article 13.2 speaks of the post-constitutional law. Doctrine of eclipse is applicable to pre-constitutional laws because it speaks that the laws which are inconsistent with the part third of the constitution to the extent of inconsistency be void. While 13 clause 2 speaks about the laws cannot be made, that is, the state shall not make any law in contravention of part third of the constitution. So now the question is that if any law which has been made by the legislature competent body after the commencement of the constitution, and that law is in contravention of part third of the constitution, then whether this doctrine of eclipse will be applicable to those post-constitutional laws or not. That is, if the law is made that is inconsistent or a contravention of part third, but later on that particular provision on the basis of which this law is considered to be inconsistent, that is amended by the competent body. And after the amendment, that law which has been enacted after the commencement of the constitution, that is not violative of any of the provisions of part third. So in that condition, the law which was in contravention of part third would be revived or not, that the doctrine of eclipse would be applicable to post constitutional laws or not. So here in this question, you see H.M. Sirvai, Professor U.R. Rai, they all mentioned that the doctrine of eclipse should apply to the laws which are there in part in clause 2 of the article 13 also, as it applies to article 13 clause 1. So there shall not be any distinction between 13.1 and 13.2. It should be applicable to both the clauses. That means pre-constitutional law as well as to the post-constitutional law. So the doctrine of eclipse, which was considered at one times to be applicable only to the pre-constitutional law, has further been expanded or extended to the post-constitutional law also. And the case, important case on the point is State of Gujarat versus Shri Ambika Mills Limited of 1974. So this was a case which was related to the post-constitutional law, and in that case, the court has adopted this doctrine of eclipse for the first time, you see. And the Constitution Bench of the Supreme Court, comprising of Chief Justice A.N. Ray at that time in 1974. Then Justice Khanna was there, Justice Matthew, Justice Y.V. Chandrachud, and one more judge, Justice Alagari Swami's justice. So this was a 5 judges Constitution Bench, and the judgment was delivered by Justice Matthew in this state of Gujarat versus Ambika Mills. And the question which was raised here was that whether a law which takes away or abridges the fundamental right of citizen under Article 19(1)(f) would be void. 19(1)(f), as I told you, was a fundamental freedom under for right to property. It was there from 1950. And it has been deleted, repealed by 44th Amendment in 1977, particularly with effect from 3rd January 1978. So this right to property was a fundamental right since 1950 to 1978, okay, till 44th Amendment when it was repealed. So here in this Gujarat versus Ambika Mills case, the question was raised by the plant was that whether a law which takes away or abridges the fundamental rights of the citizen under Article 19(1)(f) would be void and therefore non-est as regards the non-citizens, because we know that fundamental rights are available only to the citizens in 19. And here Justice Matthew of the Supreme Court delivered the judgment and held that as a pre-constitutional law taking away or abridging the fundamental right under 19 remained operative after the constitution came into force as regards to the non-citizens, because it is not inconsistent with their fundamental rights. So also the post-constitutional law, which is offending 19, may remain operative as against the non-citizens. Okay. So this was the case, the state of Gujarat versus Ambika Mills, where the judges, they were of the opinion that this can be applied to the post-constitutional laws also. And you see that the court also held that the meaning of the word void in clause 1 and clause 2 of Article 13 is same. Because you see, if you go through the language of Article 13 clause 1 and Article 13 clause 2, you will find that the only change is that of the inconsistency and contravention. But the last sentence of both the clauses would be to the extent be void. Okay, so the term void in both these clauses 13(1) and 13(2) is the same. This was the decision of the court, and there is no voidness in rem. As a jurisprudential aspect, you must be knowing as to what are the rights in rem and what are the rights in personam. Personam rights that are applicable to the individual concerned, the rights in rem that is open for all the society. So this voidness, the court said that voidness is not in rem, it's not for all. The court observed that the voidness arising from Article 13 can only be voidness in personam, that is between the parties, only between the parties for whom that law has been declared. So Justice Matthew of the court, he said that if a law is otherwise good and does not contravene any of the fundamental rights of the non-citizens, cannot take the advantage of the voidness of law for the other citizens for the reason that it contravenes the fundamental rights and claim that there is no law at all. So this was the case where the court has also, I mean, overruled the earlier judgments also, where the court was of the opinion that the doctrine of eclipse is not applicable to the post-constitutional laws, because there were direct cases of the Supreme Court when this issue was raised whether this the doctrine of eclipse is applicable to the pre-constitutional law or to the post-constitutional law. So prior to this Ambika Mills case, you see there were 2-3 judgments where the court held that it is not applicable to the post-constitutional laws because of various reasons. For example, in this Ambika Mills case, the Supreme Court has clearly overruled Sagir Ahmed versus State of UP case of 1954. And one more case from UP itself, that is Deep Chand versus UP of 1959. In both these cases, you see the court held that the post-constitutional laws which infringes fundamental rights, that is void, being unconstitutional from the very beginning. So such law cannot be validated by any subsequent constitutional amendment. But it was held by the court that since the fundamental rights are only granted to the citizens, not only to the citizens but also to the company, to the non-citizens, and therefore in Ambika Mills, this Labor Welfare Fund Act that was in issue, that was held to be valid because you know that there was a division between Maharashtra and Gujarat. So the law which was in existence in Bombay, so some of that part has been amended and has been made the part of the Gujarat state also, and some of the provisions of that law was challenged in this Ambika Mills case, and that was challenged. So the law which was there prior to the commencement of the constitution, later on amendment has been made in the constitution, and now it has not violative of the fundamental rights, so it has been revived after that. So we see that the post constitutional laws, this doctrine of eclipse has been held to be applicable by virtue of this the amendment to the constitution. Then one of the issue which was raised earlier also, and the court has not considered this query in this Ambika Mills case, that was Mahindra Lal Jaini versus State of UP case of 1963. Mahindra Lal Jaini versus State of UP 1963. It was related to the post-constitutional laws. Uh, Whether this doctrine of eclipse would be applicable or not. And here you see the points which were raised by the court were that if any law which has been enacted by the competent body after the commencement of the constitution, that is Article 13.2 would be applicable. And Article 13.2 is not allowed for this doctrine of eclipse. Why? Because the very provision under 13.2 read with Article 245, 246. Now, this 245 and 246 of the Constitution relates with the legislative relations of the center and state, wherein you find that various seventh schedule is there, where the three lists are there, where there are various items as to who will enact the law. That is there is a list one, union list, where the items have been mentioned. Only center can make the law, parliament can make the law. Second list, state list, only the state can make the law, state legislatures can make the law. And the third list is known as the concurrent list, where center and state both can make the law. So if those items are there, the power to enact the laws have been conferred upon the competent bodies, whether the parliament or the state legislatures. Then if these authorities, competent bodies are enacting any law which is violative of part third of the constitution, then it would be considered to be void from the very beginning, because they have no authority to enact the law. And this was the point in this Mahindra Lal Jaini case, that the court said that the law which is unconstitutional by virtue of 13.2, read with Article 245 and 246 of the Constitution, would be void for all the time. It cannot be revived, meaning thereby the doctrine of eclipse would not be applicable in the situation where the competent body have crossed their jurisdiction, where they have enacted the laws which are ultra vires in nature, that is, which is not in their power, which is beyond their power. And beyond their power means that they have enacted something which is violative, inconsistent, in contravention of fundamental rights. So we see that this was the judgment of 1963 of the Supreme Court. However, this 1974 Ambika Mills, that was the case where you find that the Supreme Court has adopted this doctrine in the post-constitutional laws also. And now you see that Article 13.1 and Article 13.2, in both these, we find that the doctrine of eclipse is equally applicable by the courts. And the simple meaning of this doctrine is that the law which was there, either pre-constitutional or post-constitutional, if it is inconsistent or in contravention of part third of the Constitution, would be only and only in a moribund situation. It would be in a dormant situation. It will not be declared unconstitutional for all the purposes. And if there is any amendment, and by that amendment, if the inconsistency or the contravention is not there, then it could be revived for all the time to come. Secondly, the law which is inconsistent or in contravention of part third, then if directly it relates to the citizens, then those who are not citizens, if it is applicable to them, then it would continue to be operative for those persons who are not citizens only. Okay, so for that purpose, any law cannot be declared to be void for all the purpose. It would not be considered inoperative for all. It would be operative for non-citizens, aliens, foreign nationals, companies, corporates, etc., if it is not applicable to the citizens. So this is the explanation of the doctrine of eclipse, which is earlier applicable only to pre-constitutional laws. Now it is applicable to the post-constitutional laws also.